Have you ever witnessed strange lights in the sky or experienced missing time? If so, you're not alone. These high strangeness incidents happen to people every day, all over the world, and we want to get to the bottom of them. Since 1969, MUFON has been at the forefront of UFO investigations, and we're not stopping now. Join Alex and Ruben, a team of highly skilled MUFON field investigators with years of experience, committed to getting to the truth. We'll investigate UFO events through guest interviews and witness accounts, analyzing data from various sources. Let's work together to unravel the mysteries of the unknown and get answers to the questions that have been unanswered for so long.
Hello and welcome to another episode of MUFON Up Close. My name is Alex Tusia and I'm joined with my co-host Ruben Uriarte.
Hey Alex, great to hear and see you. How you doing?
Doing good. It's been it's always a busy week with new MUFON cases. We even got 2 new MUFON investigators in Wyoming, so very happy with that.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm working on a couple of cases I got to complete as well, and but it's been a bit busy. Also, it just seems like the activity, what's been happening in regards to the phenomena, it's been a busy period throughout the world.
Yeah, a lot more people kind of looking at the skies and reporting in what they see. So it's a lot of good data that we're getting.
Yeah, I've been also looking at books and have one here, and I hope we can get her on our show. The incident in Varginha, Brazil, and that's about the crash retrieval case that happened in Brazil in 1996, where they captured a live ET and also one that had died. And her name Fernanda Perez. She's our in CAG, or International Case Assistant Group Manager. So that'd be great to have her. And then another book, one of my favorite authors, and I go way back with this one. I'm starting to read here, The Fourth Mind by Whitley Strieber.
Yeah.
And it kind of ties in, of course, with our guest speaker today in relation to abductions and all the interesting activities that have been going on with abductions. So yeah, I look forward to hearing from our guest, Mr. Lester Velez.
Yeah, why don't I go ahead and introduce him here for us. Les Velez is a graduate of the University of Vermont with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration. Beginning in September of 1970, he served in the U.S. Army as a field artillery officer, and upon his honorable discharge joined Los Combe Engineering, a Silicon Valley-based manufacturers representative company, and was vice president until his retirement in 2017. In 1991, Les joined MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, and has held the following positions: field investigator, training coordinator for field investigators, the assistant state director in Northern California, chairman of MUFON's AERC, the Abduction Experiencer Research Committee, and team leader of the ART, the Abduction Response Team, predecessor of MUFON's ERT, the Experiencer Resource Team, and presently holds the position of research consultant for the ERT. He presented at the MUFON Symposium in Denver in 2009 on the proper procedures to use in an abduction investigation. In 1991, he started facilitating an abduction support group in San Jose, California, and in 1994 co-founded OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, a 501c3 nonprofit. He has appeared on Coast to Coast AM with George Knapp, KGRA Phenomenon Radio with Linda Morton Howe, and John Burroughs' Midnight in the Desert with Heather Wade, Open Minds Radio with Alejandro Rojas, UFO Not Radio with Jesse Randolph, Erica Lukes, Tim Weisenberg on the Midnight FM, and various local public access TV productions. Please join us in welcoming Les.
Hello, gentlemen. It's great to be here.
Hey, Mr. Lester, how are you?
I'm good, Ruben. I'm good. Although I have a little bit of a cold. So
okay. Stay away.
Have to mute myself here every once in a while to cough.
Sure. And you're located where at, Lister?
In Texas,
Texas.
just outside of Dallas
All
area.
right, deep in the heart of Texas there. Well, welcome, Lester.
Thank you.
Glad to
Appreciate
have
being
you on
here.
board.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yes. Alex just read your biography, and I've had the pleasure of working with you for a number of years. As Alex had pointed out, that you were our assistant state director, our training coordinator. Then I got involved with OPUS, and I've been serving on OPUS for a number of years. And you've been the president, vice president, and it's been a very important part. Well, very important organization, but also I could see that you've been very committed to the whole abduction scenario and that, and just wanted to see if you wanted to share a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, I think the place to start is why I got so involved in all of this. You have to go back when I was 11 years old, living in Connecticut at the time, and it was I think it was 1958, and I was coming into the house, and it was already getting to be dark. I just fed my dog and everything, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this object hovering over the tree line, and it's totally silent. It's oval in shape. It's emanating a light, self-illuminated type of a situation. And it was, like I say, totally silent, and it was just moving very slowly, no sound whatsoever, and it scared the crap out of me. And I ran in the house, and I tried to get my father to come out, and by the time I convinced him to come on out, it was gone. And he says, "Well, it's probably just a beacon of light reflecting off a cloud." And I didn't buy that. And soon thereafter, I went to the library and started to find some books on UFOs. And back in those days, George Adamski was the prominent ufologist, if you will. And his book was fascinating. The pictures he had in there that he taken with his telescope were phenomenal. And the stories were incredible. And so the bug really bit me, so to speak, and I was really into it for a while. And then all of a sudden, girls became a little bit more interesting to me, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I went off to college and got involved with the ROTC program at the University of Vermont, and got commissioned as a second lieutenant. And went into the Army and the Field Artillery Branch. And I subsequently got married and moved back to Connecticut with my wife. And then, we had a couple of kids, and, life was just moving along, doing our thing. And the opportunity for me to have a ownership position in a company in California, this manufacturer's rep company, came up. And so this was like 1985 that happened. And so I moved the family, and my daughters hated me. They were 8 and 10 at the time, and they were leaving all their friends and everything. And I said, but this is a great opportunity. So we did it. And it was shortly thereafter, after moving out there, that I picked up the San Jose Mercury News. And there was an article about this nuclear physicist by the name of Stanton Freeman that was coming to San Jose City College to talk about UFOs and the government cover-up. Well, that was like somebody threw the switch for me. I said, oh my God, I got to go see this guy. And so I went. And I expected to see a handful of people. I didn't expect to see a full auditorium, like 300 people in this place, And he gave his inimitable presentation as he always does. It was absolutely fantastic, showing all the redacted materials that he had collected. Yeah. And on my way out after the presentation, MUFON had a table set up in the foyer. And So I found out that they have a monthly journal that they publish. So I decided, okay, I'm going to get this because they talk about cases, about these sightings and everything. And at that point in my whole process of being involved with UFOs, as they were called at the time, not UAPs as they are today,
Yeah.
it was really good information that they were putting out about these cases. And so I got the journal for a number of months, maybe even a whole year, I think it was, before I finally decided. I said, this is not enough for me. I got to get more involved. So I found out that they had a field investigator training course. And so I took it and I passed. And I started to go out on these assignments with a more senior investigator. And the cases that we started to get involved with, almost without exception, were not just sightings, but people were telling us that they had contact with these non-human intelligences. And I remember the first case that I got involved with that I was rather skeptical, because again, I was kind of a nuts and bolts kind of a guy. And so anyway, the second case came up, same kind of scenario. I started to really understand that something was going on here, and it was very real for these people. It was very real. I mean, they were not only saying that they had contact, but then there was physical marks on their bodies, and implants that were being discovered. So it started to present this whole different scenario in my head, where it's not just nuts and bolts. There's something more significant that's happening here. So one day, one of these experiencers said to me, do I know of other people having these types of experiences? I said, yes, I do. And so I started to facilitate a support group in my office in San Jose. And that's where the stories that were coming out were just incredible. And that's where I really started to learn a lot more about this whole phenomena. It's just really remarkable things that these people were experiencing, and the trauma that was, these people were experiencing, certainly in the beginning stages, that whether you ended up having a good experience or a bad experience, the beginning phase was definitely traumatic, because can you imagine being pulled out of your environment into a totally different environment? That's incredible. And then seeing these entities, it's an ontological shock that is just phenomenal. So I tell you that's when things started to go along. We were having these support group meetings, and I got a call from the international director of MUFON, and I think it was Jan Harzan at the time, and I may be incorrect on that, but I think it was, that this reporter in our area was looking to talk to somebody about UFOs and things of that nature. And so he said it would be okay if I give him your contact information. And so I said, sure, please. And he came out, and he took pictures and everything, and I'm on the cover of this Monterey Coast Weekly paper. My head is big, is way bigger than this that you can see right now. But
I have a copy of that somewhere.
Do you? Yeah. I mean, it was like, oh, I'm looking up in the sky like this. Okay. Anyway, so he did a great job on the article and everything. And it was shortly thereafter that I got a call from a woman down in Carmel. Her name was Carol Austin, who's since passed away. And she said, I'm in contact with these off-earthly entities, and I'd like to talk to you and talk to you some more about this. But also, I'd like to understand what's going on with my brain when I'm in contact with these entities. Well, when she first said that, I said, how am I going to possibly help her? But then she said she was working with an emergency room doctor down in Carmel. And so that triggered something, because I had a doctor friend by the name of Eugene Lipson, who also was the co-founder of OPUS. And he was interested in meeting other doctors that were interested in the phenomena. So I called him up and I said, hey, Gene, let's go down there. Let's, you can meet this doctor, but you can also we'll find out a little bit more about this woman down there, and Carol, and see what we can do. So we did. One Saturday afternoon, we went down there. And as we walked into her house, there was a picture on the wall. She's standing on the back of this pretty good sized vessel. Beautiful, crystal clear blue waters. And I asked her, I says, what's this all about? She says, well, I was helping these treasure hunters down in the Caribbean. I said, you were? How did you do that? She says, well, I was in contact with the captain of the galleon that had gone down. Well, that started off the afternoon on quite an interesting note. And subsequently, we found out that after a near-death experience that she had, she became very psychic and started to connect with these entities. And she went on to write a number of manuscripts with the contact types of people, and she even wrote one about her contact with Jesus, which was very interesting. Anyway, long story short, we came away that afternoon and we stopped at this hamburger joint. Gene loved hamburgers. And we said, how can we possibly help people like this? And so that's when OPUS was hatched. And in 1994, we officially became a 501c3 recognized by the IRS, which always cracks me up. IRS and the paranormal. I don't know. But yeah, so we've been doing this now. OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, has been doing this now for over 30 years. Yeah. And we've done research. We've on our website at opusnetwork.org, if you go into the articles and documents section, you can see the omega-3 study that we did, where we took 71 people that claimed that they had contact with non-human intelligences and 51 people as a control group. And what we found was very interesting. First of all, none of these people, either in the experiencer group or the control group, had a psychopathology. They were totally sane. Their experience certainly changed their worldview. And a lot of them came back with the idea that we need to be better stewards of the planet. We need to be more loving. We need to be more kind to one another. All very positive types of feelings that they came back with. We also found, and this was interesting, that in the experiencer group compared to the control group, that temporal lobe activity was different. And that's something that, we have not pursued further at this point, simply because we haven't found the right way to approach this. But that's something that we still would like to investigate.
Was that dealing with the brain or
Yes.
brain activity is different, or has been impacted by perhaps with the phenomena?
Well, it's truly amazing. I mean, there are steps being made, like Dr. Gary Nolan at Stanford University has done MRIs on people's brains, and they found that in the caudate putamen area, there was a lot more connections with these people that exhibited psychic abilities and telepathic capabilities. Almost like a evolutionary process that's happening. Whether or not that was caused by their experiences, or is this something that's just a natural evolution, and changing our DNA, our genome, or whatever, which is quite interesting. Matter of fact, just recently there was an article about that there's an area in the frontal lobe that people can actually shut off a certain portion of that, and then they become psychic and telepathic. And they've done experiments where they've magnetically been able to shut off a certain portion of the temporal lobe, and then these people have been able to exhibit those kinds of things. So that, I mean, I just literally read that this morning.
Wow.
So the process is phenomenal with what's going on. I think we're starting to be able to dig in a little bit deeper and see if there's something that's allowing us to experience these types of things, where some people cannot and others can. And it's almost like, you know, you have a group of people and some people see a UFO and others don't see a thing. It's just so many twists and turns. It's very difficult to say one thing is the answer. It could be multiple things that are the answer. But so the support group thing, what in OPUS is what we've done. Okay, what we've created is three things now. First of all, we have a totally confidential online support group where now we're getting close to having 500 people in the support group from all over the world. I mean, this thing is international, totally international. We have people from Africa. We have people, from Europe. We have people from Asia, South America, that are constantly, 24/7 talking about their experiences, asking questions. And what we found is that the support group is probably the best thing for people because they understand that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of these people that are having these kinds of, they can't talk to family members even. They don't want to talk about it to the family members because the family members don't want to have them talk about it. They can't certainly talk to their co-workers. It's something that they don't know where to turn. Where can you turn to express what's going on in your life that's so unreal as far as how we normally operate here on this plane? It's something that presents itself in a way that continues to baffle us. And is it extraterrestrial in nature? Is it interdimensional in nature? Is it time travelers? Is it our military, or is it all the above? Which I kind of tend to believe that it can be all the above, because our physics, I don't think is up to the point where it can explain all of this, but it's certainly something that's happening. And the support group is so important. I think it's probably one of the best things we do. Then the second thing that we do is we have a referral network of mental health practitioners and hypnotherapists that we can refer people to. This is very similar to what the ERT, the MUFON's ERT does. As a matter of fact, we work with them, actually. We exchange information. George gets our information if we come up with somebody new, and then vice versa. They'll send us information, so that it's a good working relationship. Which kind of brings me to backing up a little bit about how this eventually got started for MUFON. Was way back when, I think it was 2007 or something. James Carrion was the international director at the time. And I talked to him. I said, James, you guys are missing a boat. You don't have a setup to help people that come to you with these kind of issues. And so what happened initially was that all the phone calls that were going into MUFON were redirected to me. So I would get this beautiful live telephone or recorded telephone call that I was able to download and listen to, and then I would contact these people. And matter of fact, in one of the presentations that I do, I replay some of this with, of course, their names and addresses or phone numbers deleted. And some of it is just absolutely fascinating. So anyway, shortly thereafter, that's when I started this AERC, the Abduction Experiencer Resource team. And so we started to work that whole process. And then Kathleen Martin came in, and she took it over and did a fantastic job getting it all set up. And that's, became the ERT. And I was happy with that, because then, here is MUFON's got their organization set up now. And then I've got my organization set up, our organization, Ruben. and so I think it's been working pretty well. And it's something that I think is going to be stressed in the very near future, because as we have had these congressional hearings about the topic, a lot more people are now feeling more comfortable in coming forward that, hey, these things are real. It's not my imagination. And then the next step is that they start to look at these experiences. And of course, they have looked at it behind the scenes. Lou Elizondo, for instance, I mean, he's had multiple conversations with experiencers, whether in the military or even privately. He was here a couple of years ago and interviewed Terry Lovelace, who wrote a book, Incident at Devil's Den. And that was for that show that he had. What was it? Unidentified? I think that's what it was. The name of that show that Lou was involved with for a while on the History Channel. Excuse me. And so I was able to participate in the lunch when Lou was here and Terry. And that episode, by the way, never got shown, because I think they felt that this was something they didn't want to get into at the time. They wanted to more focus on the nuts and bolts aspect of it. And I'm going to need to take a sip of water here, guys.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Amazing, Lester. You have a lot of history connected with your passion, actually.
Oh yeah, and that luncheon that we had with Lou was amazing, because he felt that they understand how these things operate. It's a combination of the skin of the craft and a small energy source. He says it's not element 115. I asked him that point blank. Here we go. I mentioned to Alex, because of my cold, I might be coughing, so I got a mute button here, so
no problem.
Blow up the sound level there. Anyway, so moving along, the third thing that we have been able to put together is our EST group, their Experiencer Support Team, as we call it. And these are people like the ERT people that have had a lot of experience with the subject and are able to do triage with these people when they come to us and find out what it is that they're looking for. How can we best help them? And that's proved to work very well. And we get 2 to 3 a week of people coming to us, sometimes more, depending upon what's going on at the time. Some incident might or last year I did 42 podcasts.
Wow.
And it was like amazing how many people started coming our way based on those podcasts. And I certainly appreciate what you guys are doing, and thank you for what you're doing. This is very important, to be able to educate people on this phenomena, and that it's happening. It's very real. And then people talk about the fact that, well, there's no proof. Well, hey, look at these implants that have been, Dr. Roger Lear, who's no longer with us, did some phenomenal work on these things. And matter of fact, I'll have to dig out at the break. I'll dig out some information on that that I'll pass on to you guys. But anyway, the thing that was so interesting to me during these support group meetings was, and I'll have to back up a little bit and tell you about a case that I worked on. This couple from Santa Cruz, they were both amateur pilots, and they were picnicking, I guess, in this state park just north of Santa Cruz. And it was getting to be dusk, and they were coming out of the park, and they noticed this light over the ocean, and it's really got their attention, and it's got bigger and bigger, and until it was literally over their head. And it was the size of a small Learjet. It was triangular in shape.
Weird.
And this thing slowly just went noiselessly into this canyon behind where they were. And they noticed another light. In this same scenario, it got bigger and bigger until it was over their head. It was triangular in shape. And the first one, they felt they were looking at it. The second one, they felt it was looking at them, and they started to get frightened. And they backed up underneath this big old pine tree, and I went up there with them to see the whole thing and the area. And this area is really rocky, and it's steep. And during the day, it's so heavily wooded that it's dark during the day even. And they felt really strange at this point, and they felt like they were starting to float down this trail back to their car. And like I say, it's dark and rocky, and this is already getting to be pretty dark. And the last thing they remember is getting to their car, and then 3 hours passed. They had missing time. And they found themselves in a restaurant, which is only like 10 minutes away, and they have no idea what happened. and so they eventually came to a support group that we had, and they had taken pictures. They developed a rash after this incident, and they had gone to, I guess it was his doctor. And he says, well, it's not poison oak or poison ivy, which is prevalent up in that area, but it wasn't that. And then they decided to check her doctor. I guess they went to her doctor, and he says, well, it might be something internal, but it doesn't look like anything that I'm familiar with. And so they showed this picture around the table. And almost without exception, they all said that they had a similar rash at one time. And one person in a group says, I know what that's from. And we said, okay, what's it from? Says it's a reaction to the fluid that they dip you in to sanitize you when they bring you on board the craft.
Oh, wow. Huh. So that sort of chemical reaction.
Yeah. Chemical reaction. So I tell you that blew everybody's mind, and subsequently I've not heard anybody repeat that, but it seems like a pretty damn good explanation.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So now this happened over 30 years ago, right? I got a call from them about 3 months ago. They are all of a sudden memories are coming back to them.
Oh, wow. And
the woman said, I remember being dipped in this fluid.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
So it's like some sort of disinfectant that that was used on them
to sanitize you.
Same procedure, I guess, and in a sense. Wow. And what's remarkable too is it just dawned on me, Lester, that it takes time. Over a period for someone who's gone through a traumatic experience, and then those little memories start coming back.
Yeah, that's the thing that's so interesting about this is the fact that when you have such a traumatic experience, that it there's a block that gets created, and what I have to tell you this story again in another support group meeting. Like I say, I've learned so much in doing these support group meetings. And by the way, we also have a monthly online support group meeting via Zoom that we do for the people that are in the support group. Okay, and that's worked out pretty well too. So that I get a chance to hear some more stories because now I don't physically have a support group here in Texas, but now we do it via Zoom, so that works pretty well too. One day, this person in the group says, "I've seen you before," and I said, "Really? Where? At a UFO conference? Gas stations, grocery store? What?" No. I saw you aboard the craft. I said, "Really? Oh, that's interesting."
Wow.
And I kind of blew it off because I have no recollection whatsoever of having been on board a craft. It was a year and a half, maybe 2 years later. Another person, totally different person, said, "I've seen you before." Same thing. And I said, "Really? Where? UFO conference?" No. You were sitting on this bench naked on board the craft, and you were freaking out, and they told me to go over to you to calm you down.
Oh, jeez.
So at that point, I decided to go get regressed. I had 3 separate regressions. I had multiple past lives, but I didn't recover anything like that. Then I subsequently talked to a person and they said, well, perhaps what happened was that in one of these past lives, you were abducted. Okay. And this person somehow got involved with that past life as well, which brings up another story. I decided I wanted to do some hypnosis work. And I took this course with this woman, and it was a group class type of a thing, and so I was working with a partner, and there was this woman also in the room working with her partner, and one of my past lives, I was a Greek soldier during the Hellenic period, and I was getting married to this rather lovely young woman. And so I went into this whole scenario, and what we needed to do at the end of these little sessions that we were working together was to tell our story to the group. What did you find? What happened? So I told a story, and almost it was like after I finished saying that, this woman on the other side jumps up and says, "It was me. I was the woman." so that blew my mind.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we chatted together for a number of weeks and trying to get some more detail on that whole scenario. But these are the kind of things that blows one's mind, to say the least.
The synchronicity there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Well, God, Lester, it's amazing all the areas that you've been involved in, and also another goal that you had with Opus was coming up with a book, and that's when you wanted to talk to us about the book.
Oh yeah. Well,
that was
there was a labor of love, and this happened during COVID, and I said, what a great time to sit down and spend the time to put together some notes about what I've been through, and what I've experienced. And so the book basically is like a guide, if you will, to the phenomena. There we go. The unknown other and the existential proposition of alien contact. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Perfect.
And I think
He read the book, by the way.
yes, he did. He told me. Thank you.
So did I. So did I. Go ahead.
And so we cover a lot of the bases as far as what people are experiencing from a psychological, from a physical nature, all the aspects of it, whether we talk about implants, um, uh, writing that people have come up with. There was a gentleman who's also since passed away, Big Lacey, that wrote this manuscript about all the different scripts that he's been able to collect over the years, and none of it is translatable, which is the difficult part of all of this. But people seem to be compelled to start writing, like automatic writing, and so that's a phenomena that I talk about.
I've got a question for you, Les. Have
Sure.
you come across many witnesses, many experiencers who feel compelled, but they write backwards? Like you have to hold it up to a mirror in order to read it.
Oh, wow.
Is that something you've come across?
No, I have not. I have not come across that.
I'm working a case right now with a witness, and he's felt compelled to write things down after his experience. But the way that it's written is it's backwards. So you have to, you can tell like what the words say if you're reading it slowly, but you put it up to a mirror and it's exactly the way it's supposed to be. So I just wasn't sure if that was something that you'd come across.
No, I have not. I have not come across that. Not to date, anyway. But yeah, all the aspects are intriguing, and I also talked about the favor and the tic tacs in the book. So I tried to give a broad overview of the phenomena, and as I say, the physical and the psychological aspects of the phenomena, and the aspects that are so interesting to me, especially like Roger Lear's findings about these implants and the marks on people's bodies, which I have a lot of pictures in there. Tried to put as much pictures in there about the marks that people come away with, whether they're triangular in nature, various types of bruises that people come away with. And I'm going to need to take a little more water.
For those different marks that people are getting, are they is there like a certain part of their body where they show up the most? Is it on legs? Is it on their arms, somewhere on their back, or is it kind of varying?
Yeah, most of the ones that I've seen have been on the arms and the legs. That seems to be quite prevalent.
Were they like scoop marks?
Scoop marks, yep, scoop marks. Bud Hopkins, I guess, came out with some of those first pictures about the scoop marks.
Yeah.
And, in his books, Missing Time and Intruders.
How long do the marks typically last? Is it kind of like they're gone in a couple of days, or are these things that stick around for years?
Well, that's an interesting question, because surgical marks, cuts, seem to heal phenomenally fast. Scoop marks don't seem to go away. They seem to be pretty permanent, but a lot of these marks do disappear fairly quickly.
That's what makes it tough too, is that if you're not spotting it in that first day or two, you might miss it entirely.
Yeah, and it's important that these people, when they're having these experiences and they do see something, that they take a picture of it, so that there's some kind of a history record that's happening.
I remember seeing these strange markings. It looked like a circle, and then it had all these other little diagrams. It was on this lady's belly button area.
Yeah, I remember that case.
You remember that one?
Yeah. I think you had sent me that picture, and it was a circle with like like it was like a sight on a gun.
Yeah, like a grid.
A grid, and then a little circle within that, and it was
we thought it was we thought it was an air, with a hair blower,
Uh-huh.
the design from in front of a
Yeah.
hair blower that maybe she burned herself, but she she said no, that wasn't the cause. She would remember that, but this marking was unexplained. And
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the small little triangular marks where it looks like an arrowhead almost, and then others just a little pinpoint in a
Yeah.
shape of a triangle are very prevalent. I've got one case that I think I know I have this in the book is this woman had grid marks on the bottom of her feet,
wow,
like she had stepped on something hot, and but according to her, no, that she was not stepping on anything, that no ritual, if you will, like go walking over burning coals. But that I've never seen that before. Never seen that before.
Lester, oh, sorry. You brought up something really interesting earlier. You mentioned that we need to be prepared. Like there's going to be more requests or more of a need as people are becoming more aware of the phenomena. And just wondering, as the frequency is starting to increase, do you think we're ready for that, or if not, what do we need to do to be able to be of service to a potential tsunami wave of people, coming
Well,
at us?
I think what when you guys are doing right now is a huge plus. Um, to be able for people to listen to the things that you're putting out there, um, and that's a huge help. That's an absolute huge help. And I think that the shows, a lot of the podcasts that are out there now, look what News Nation is doing,
Yeah,
with all of this. Ross Coulthart and all his presentations, and George Knapp, and
yeah.
there's a plethora of people out there. So, and this is important. This is important that this information gets out there. So thank you guys for what you're doing. I mean, it's this is huge, and so I think that's going to help. It's going to help because then people understand that they're not alone. Okay, and so it'll reduce the stress level, I think, quite a bit. But they're also going to be looking for help, and
Mhm.
so organizations like MUFON and OPUS are important. And there's other organizations out there as well that are doing similar things. Maybe not to the extent that either MUFON or OPUS is doing, but certainly trying to give people a place to talk about their experiences.
Mhm.
I was thinking, Lester, that as the need increases and we have a number of organizations out there, do you think there's a coalition that needs to be done, or there's been talk and maybe some attempts now, different groups trying to work together? But what's
Yeah,
your
and
thoughts?
yes, I think that there needs to be some more organization to that extent. Uh, there's another organization called UAP Med, which you're also part of, and I've been a part of, and I think I'm getting back into it again,
Yes.
thanks to you. But and their focus is trying to educate the first responders and the medical community about this phenomena, and how to approach it, and the best practices type of a scenario. But yeah, I would love to see it, but unfortunately, politics get in the way, like
Mm.
anything, and personalities get in the way, and so you know I know there's an organization out there that we thought we were going to partner with, and decided to go off on their own, and have been quite uh, unwilling to do anything together. So, you know, and this just it's personalities that get in the way. But I think that you're right. You know, it's like that conference that took place in I think it was at Harvard, the alien discussions thing that happened.
MIT?
And that's right, MIT. Excuse me.
Yeah, 91, 92.
Yeah, and that was an incredible bringing together of people to really look at this subject. But then it it never fails to amaze me how these things kind of wither away. It doesn't, there's no further impetus. So I think with these congressional hearings that have been going on and the impetus, which is bipartisan, which blows me away,
Yeah.
that it's so bipartisan that the Democrats and the Republicans can actually agree on anything. That is fascinating. It's fascinating. And so I think we're making progress in that regard. And yeah, there's great opposition. You know, the Pentagon and the DOD do not want to bring anything out. You know, and then we have the people on the other side that want this all out there. So, and whether it's a national security issue, we don't fully know. And you know, if we do have the technology, we certainly don't want our enemies to know that, because it could actually tip the scale majorly if we have anti-gravity craft and able to do the kind of maneuvers that these things do.
But if we have the technology, do you think we're just not using it? We're just kind of sitting on it, using it sparingly, if that's the case?
Well, I think again, with my discussion with Lou Elizondo, is the fact that they know a lot more about how these things operate. But he's also still saying the fact that it's not ours, and it's not Chinese, or it's not the Russians or the North Koreans. So it's still an unknown. And so if they've supposedly have crashed, that's come out in congressional hearings, that they have crashed, you know, UFOs, and they have alien bodies, and they got all of this. And you know, have they been able to successfully reverse engineer it? I don't know. And nobody seems to be saying anything along those lines.
I feel like the more, as time goes on, the more come out. You know, I feel like now you're hearing a lot of these stories from like the 60s and the 70s, the 80s, that people finally feel comfortable talking about, you know, after all this time. So hopefully, you know, with all these congressional hearings, with these people kind of being more prevalent in the news, maybe we will hear more stories, and we'll hear that, you know, this just happened, rather than, you know, hear about it 20 years later.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. Hopefully that's the case. I think that we have the right people, you know, investigating this thing. I mean, the work that George Knapp and Ross Coulthart have been doing is phenomenal. Really good. And Jeremy Colbert has also been just doing some phenomenal work on trying to extricate this information from the clutching hands of the establishment.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting too, Les and Alex, is internationally, Jaime Maussan now has his own network. It's 24/7. You go to that channel, and that's all it plays, is all the UFO
Wow.
related material.
That's
And
fantastic. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
I mean, and that's of course it's in Spanish, but it reaches the
Yeah.
Spanish-speaking world, you know, through Latin America and Spain and other countries. But they also do it bilingually too. So there's, so as you said, the information is going out there, and you know, we probably don't get as many abduction cases, or we hear about Mexico or other countries, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the language barrier. But as technology improves, we're going to be hearing a lot of other interesting cases that have all this connection with what's going on.
I think too, it's also societal, depending upon where you are. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, the French have been really close-lipped about the whole subject, and you know, it could be for religious reasons, especially in South America, that people don't want to talk about it because it's evil. It may be evil. Uh, there's so many aspects to the phenomena that you know, angels and demons. Okay,
Mhm.
Oh,
and
that's the other aspect. Yeah.
yeah, that in some of these cases, it's a combination thereof. I mean, I've got one case that, matter of fact, I interviewed the woman that was involved with this, and that interview is on YouTube, um, and where it was not only entities, but it was ghost
Hmm.
involvement and demons,
Mm-hmm.
and they found that her house was on a ley line and these
Ah.
things were coming out of the ley line, and that neighborhood where that all the houses along that ley line were having issues, same kind of issues. It's phenomenal stuff. I mean, we're dealing with a totally different reality that we don't understand,
Yeah.
and you know, and the interesting thing about that, in a lot of these cases, when people evoke the name of Jesus Christ, it seems to work to be able to stop these things from happening. And of course, now you're talking about exorcisms. You're talking about a whole another aspect of the phenomena, which we
No,
could
it's
get into a little
very
bit later.
exactly. It's very interesting when people do bring up Jesus and religion. But let's take a quick break, and then we'll hop right back into that.
Got it.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
The experiencer phenomenon is happening for a lot of people just like you all over the world. People are telling very similar stories about personal encounters with non-human intelligence. The Mutual UFO Network has research, resources, and support to help you make sense of what is happening. Our experiencer community is growing every day. Join MUFON, find your friends.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
And we're back. Now we're discussing the kind of religious connection. I've had so many witnesses and experiencers who have either said that they invoked the name of Jesus and they were set free by these beings. Some people actually see Jesus in full body in front of them. A lot of people become religious afterwards. It's just interesting that that ties into this phenomena at all.
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with Andruffle.
Yes,
Lester, do you?
yes.
Andruffle?
I have a good story
Alex?
about Anne. Yeah,
Oh yeah, like
her book,
eh,
How to Defend Yourself Against
yeah.
Alien Abduction, is the book. I got involved with Anne. Actually, I went with her to the University of Arizona to get into the files of. I'll tell you in a second here. I'm having a brain fart. Uh, um,
Well, she wrote that
yeah,
book about
James
the
McDonald.
research.
James McDonald.
McDonald.
James
Mhm.
McDonald. And supposedly he had 15 small notebooks that had very interesting information in it. And no one has been able to find it. So what we did is we went and visited his wife and in Tucson. And we were able to search the premises and a garage looking for these things. And then we found out after some further digging, we didn't find out anything there, that supposedly they were secreted away at a chapel on the University of Arizona campus. And I eventually went to all the chapels and I had to go up to these people and say, excuse me, I'd like to see if you've got a hidden room or something or a file cabinet that might have these little notebooks in it. Well, I never found anything, unfortunately. But yeah, I had a really nice time with Anne, and of course, she's since passed away as well. But that book of hers, How to Defend Yourself Against Alien Abduction, is a great book because it has like 9 different ways people have sent her over the years that worked for them, how to stop these incursions. And but the one that does seem to be quite prevalent is invoking the name of Jesus Christ. And that presents a whole nother ball game as far as why.
Why it works.
You know, is he actually, was Jesus Christ an alien? And he's a pretty powerful dude, and his followers are still out there doing their thing, and the rest of them don't want to mess with this group. So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah,
Like,
I did a case and I forwarded it to the ERT, to George Medic, who runs the program, and I just completed a case that was from Mexico, and same thing. This woman was in bed with her husband sleeping, and then she sensed a presence in the room, and then she sees this ET being coming toward her bed, and she tries to wake up her husband, and her husband's just totally out. And she got so frightened that that's what she started doing. She started asking for Jesus and started praying and everything, and then the thing just left. So that does come up. Also, going back to that question, there's a book I recently had purchased called Extraterrestrial Intelligence and the Catholic Faith, and I'm still reading it. I mean, still a lot to read for me to finish the book. But I decided to buy the book for our priests at my parish. So far, I've given away 3 books to 3 of the
what did your
priests.
priest think of it?
That's what I want to know. I don't know. I gave it to them, and they looked at it with a lot of interest, and they say, "Oh, this is interesting." What I want to do is hopefully one of them will take the moment to read it or ask questions. I gave them my contact information, so I would like to initiate a dialogue.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think the Vatican has already come out with the fact that it's no problem. That
They came out a little bit ago, but they said, if you're from another planet, you can still come to the church.
That's right. We'll accept you. Never want to lose an opportunity to baptize another person.
It's staying with the same theme. Noe Torres, my co-author, who worked on the book on Roswell, on historical like a guidebook. Where you go around town and he's all these interesting connections, and he uncovered a story that when the Roswell crash occurred, that the information got around the base about the down UFO, and a lot of the servicemen were just really freaking out as this information was coming in. And apparently the pastor there at the base had a special service, and that night it was packed, and a lot of servicemen came, and he started saying, yeah, I haven't heard that story before about the impact that it takes, and the rumor mills and everything. And so as priests mentioned that God creates the universe. God had created the universe and its inhabitants, and that we need to be open to what's going on in a way to sort of lessen the fear that was being raised on that. So that's an interesting aspect to this whole question.
Well, I tell you, there's so many interesting aspects to this. It's just another reality. We're not at the top of the food chain, and people talk about, well, if these entities are so smart, why they keep coming back, and why they keep abducting us, and all those types of questions. And I think what it is that these things are very generational. If you have an experience, you'll find out that their parents had some experience, or their grandparents had experience. And I think, it may be an experiment that they continue to follow over eons. It's something that, or it's another generation of entities, okay? Because these things evidently may not live forever. All right, so the next generation has to be taught how to do this. Okay, Junior, this is how you abduct a person. and I think this thing about being so smart that they don't have to, that's baloney. I think that they do need, and they, because of either generational things or they're following experiments. I mean, look what we do to animals, dolphins, for instance.
Same thing.
We go out there and we pull them out of their environment. Oh my God, where am I going? I'm on board this craft. And they take samples. Okay, they tag them. All right, implants. I mean, it's the same thing. And then a year later, this research ship is out there and they catch the same thing. They measure him up. They check his tag, and they throw him back in the water. Very similar. It's very similar.
Les, do you think that a person that's gone through some extraordinary experience, how do they cope with it? How do they come back and try to live a normal life, whatever that is, but it's at the same time dealing with these issues? How do you see that?
Yeah, it's something, and that's why I go back to the support group philosophy, that these people who are suffering, by themselves, which is the worst case scenario, that they're not able to reach out to someone else to talk about these kind of things. But once they do find the kind of help that they need, which we're trying to provide, it makes a huge difference. That they, number one, they know that they're not alone. There's other people having similar experiences. And in a lot of cases, these support group scenarios works very well to people ask questions, and then they do get answers from someone that's utilized something to ameliorate their stress. We talk about meditation, talk about exercise. There's a lot of things that people talk about during these support group meetings that are very helpful. and I get it all the time where people say, "Oh, thank you, so and so, for putting that out there, because I'm having the same kind of thing going on, and I think that the way you handle it is going to help me as well."
Hmm.
So, but yeah, it's the ontological shock that occurs when this first goes down is pretty tough to handle, and a lot of some people are eventually are able to come out of it and be able to lead normal lives, but then there are other people that just can't, for whatever reason. It can't get it out of their heads. It's a constantly with them. um, they can't sleep at night. There's there's physical issues that come up because of that. They're not usually healthy. um, and you feel for these people, but and you try to point them in the right direction, and that's all we can do at this point, because we don't have the magic bullet, um, in this case. But luckily, it's a spiritual journey that these people are on.
Mm.
uh, their worldview changes significantly, and because it's a spiritual journey, not a religious journey, but a spiritual journey of the soul, um, that occurs. And in most cases, people come out the other end pretty well. So the initial shock is there, but then over time, they become to accept it and are able to handle it. And then at the end, when it stops, it's almost like the Stockholm syndrome. People say, "Wait a minute, how come you're not coming for me anymore?"
Well, it's interesting. There's as part of the ERT questionnaire, one of the questions is, would you like these experiences to continue?
Mhm.
And not everybody says no. It's about a 50-50 shot of people who say, I want it to end.
Right.
But some people really develop a connection with these beings.
Oh.
They have the same being that's visited them since they were a child, or that's visited them multiple times. And it's like a friend, or a relative that they see occasionally.
Absolutely, Alex. That you hit the nail on the head on that. It certainly does. I mean, there's certainly been love affairs,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that have gone on. I've had one case in a support group, that the person said that they actually saw genitalia on this creature, which is
Rare.
so, which is, and whether they used it or not, I don't know. I didn't go that far. But yeah, it's all over the place as far as possibilities.
Do you think there's other groups out there of people that are maybe meeting, talking? They don't necessarily belong to a group, but they're doing their own networking. People getting together for coffee and
Oh, I'm sure.
chatting.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. Sure, I think there's multiple groups out there. Um, you know, it all comes about, with people like Linda Moulton Howe, who wrote the foreword to my book. She has such a broad reach that these people contact her, and then she forwards that information to me. We work very closely
Right.
together, and then once these people are talking with her, uh, she also lets them know that there's probably people in their area that they could talk to as well. And what we try to do whenever somebody comes to us and they want a referral, we try to refer them to somebody that's close to where they are, of
Mhm.
course. And that way, then they can start talking to these people. And these people that are on our referral network have had experience with experiencers, and which is positive, because then they can also um, uh, present alternatives as far as support groups to them that might be in that area.
Do you think this information on abductions, are we ready to share that with at these congressional hearings? And so, what do you think would be the
Well,
reaction?
I think at this point it's probably too early put it out there in a congressional hearing. I think this is big enough right now just to try to understand what the hell the Tic Tacs are. You know, and you know who's driving the craft. You know, and what's their agenda? What's their purpose? Those are all kinds of questions that you know we need to answer. I think first before we delve into that.
I saw a documentary recently, and some of the new people that are more prominent now in ufology or UAP. The question was asked about abductions, and they ignored that. They said, "I don't want to talk about that."
Right.
I don't.
Right.
And that's what got me more alarmed was, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why?
Gary Nolan. I remember I saw that documentary, and you know, he's an experiencer himself, and so for him at this point, he's reticent, and he's been, you know, Ross Coulthard interviewed him, and he came out and told the whole story about what happened to him. But I think right now they're trying to focus on the more scientific aspects of this, whether it's, you know, MRIs of these experiencers' brains, and trying to understand that. So I think they're focusing on the nuts and bolts aspects of this, if you will, as opposed to getting involved with this whole other topic, which is important and will have to be dealt with at some point. But I think it's just too early right now.
I think Gary is our the MUFON headliner this year for the symposium as well.
Right. Yeah. He's our keynote speaker.
Yeah.
For the upcoming MUFON symposium.
Oh, fantastic!
Lester, did you go to the last one that was in Dallas?
Yeah, I did.
How was that?
It was good. It was very good. I had a table there, and I was able to sign up a lot of people for our Omega-4 study for the control group. Yeah, we're doing this next study, and what we're doing is we're looking at different aspects. So 200 questions. It's a rather lengthy one. It takes you about a half an hour to finish the whole thing.
What is the difference between Omega-3 and Omega-4?
Well, it's basically a follow-on. All the questions we didn't ask in the Omega-3, we were asking in the Omega-4. And we finished the first phase of it, and it's also on our website under the Article and Documentation Center. So you can see, and what we did there was we went out to the therapists and asked them questions, okay? And so we got their response. The second phase, okay, is we're going out to the clients of these therapists. So now we have people that have already worked with a therapist, which is different than in a lot of cases, because in a lot of cases in the Omega-3 study, these people, most of them had not gone to a therapist as far as the experiencers are concerned. And of course, control group didn't need to. But anyway, so that's the difference. That's the difference. So, matter of fact, we're just about to wrap it up here. We just got the last of our control group people on board and taking the questionnaire. And so now we're going to dive into the numbers. And one of our board members, Russ Scalpone, is crunching all the numbers, and he's fantastic. He's a clinical psychologist and knows all about statistics. And I hate statistics.
Well, definitely looking forward to that. I'll have to keep an eye out for those results. It sounds like sounds great.
Yeah, we're trying to do a thorough job and trying to come up with some new avenues of approach as far as this phenomena. I had mentioned earlier in the first segment that Roger Lear had done quite a bit of work with experiencers in removing implants, and let me just read some of the conclusions that they came up with.
Yeah, here before you read that, I think we're just gonna take a quick break here for a minute.
Oh, okay.
And we're back. Les, you were gonna get into some data for us.
Yeah. So his book, The Alien Scalpel, he wrote Aliens and the Scalpel, excuse me. What they found is that there's no inflammatory rejection reaction by the body to these foreign objects. And you get a splinter in your finger, it reacts right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to get that out of there as quickly as possible. There's no visible portal of entry. Collections of specialized nerve endings surrounding the objects. An outer coating of ceramic biological material. A metallic phase where inorganic metal becomes biological tissue. The emission of radio waves, which are deep space frequencies in the FM band, have been emitted by these objects. Electromagnetic fields in excess of 10 milligauss. Composition of meteoric iron 66. Rare earth metals such as U-236, a single isotope of uranium existing by itself, as well as elements such as iridium, which is very rare and hard to find in the Earth's crust. Non-terrestrial isotopic ratios indicating the involved elements did not come from Earth. I mean, and he goes on to some more esoteric types of things, but the bottom line was that there's metallic caverns that are no larger than the diameter of one atom. Resistance to ordinary cutting techniques such as metallic sawing or severing with a cutting instrument. One of the specimens had to be cut with a laser. So fascinating information. And is that being placed in these people by our military, or is it being placed there by some unknown entity? For what purpose? Again, it's something that, people say, well, there's no proof. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? One of the things too, I wanted to go back and give you a little bit more information about the omega-3 study as well. People talk about fantasy proneness. And what we found was that it does not appear to play a differentiating role between the experiential and the control group. However, sensitivity to alternative realities and early and recurrent paranormal or psi experiences seem to play a role in the abduction experience. Childhood conflicts, psychosocial tension and abuse and trauma more than likely facilitate a dissociative coping style in later life. How much a part dissociation plays in the abduction experience remains an open question. But again, this does not make that person have a psychopathology. It's just a way of coping with what's been happening in their lives. Abductees, experiencers believe that there is a sentient, purposive alien intelligence at play in their lives and at work in the world. What the intelligence's goals are seem to be more beneficent than malevolent, but more benign than malignant. So it presents such an interesting fact that we just something is happening in their brains, and we're not sure exactly what it is. And of course, Gary Nolan has looked at the Caude Putamen area. Now this article, scientific article about the temporal lobe activity or the frontal lobe activity, where they've been able to sort of magnetically excise a certain portion of it that allowed these people to become more psychic and more telepathic. I mean, now we're getting into some really interesting things. I also mentioned the fact that fantasy proneness, we did not find any proof of that happening. These people were not fantasy prone. Also, debunkers talk about false memory syndrome. Well, the American Psychological Association, nor any other mainstream psychological diagnostic system, has either ratified or proven such a diagnosis. So it's not true, not true. And of course, sleep paralysis is talked about all the time.
Yeah.
And 2/3 of all cases, whether in the bedroom or not, did not involve sleep paralysis. So, yeah, it's something that these debunkers, always throw at you. Oh, yeah, it's sleep paralysis. But really interesting stuff. And then back to the book a little bit. I talked about the physical effects, and you have lost or missing or compressed time, audible tones before contact, sudden abnormal silence before feeling of presence, nosebleeds, unusual marks on the body, puncture marks, triangular marks, dots, surgery marks that heal abnormally fast, scoop marks, implants, unusual stains, paralysis, recurring headaches, eye and vision issues, moving through a window or solid matter. I mean, that is a factor that is particularly interesting.
Yeah.
People, I been working with a guy for probably 15 years now, who as a child, he lived right next to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And in this community that's no longer there now because it's been demolished. But one night when he was like 5 years old, he was taken out of his home right through a window, and he had his blanket with him, and the blanket got stuck in the window.
Huh.
The military came in the next day, took out the whole window. So, and the case gets even more bizarre, where he and his mother were eventually brought to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, brought into this interrogation room, and this entity was brought in, a typical gray type, and this gray was told to erase their memory of the situation. And it didn't completely work. And somebody came into the room that shouldn't have been there, a military type person. And according to the story, okay, which we have not been able to confirm, that this person was hustled out and a gunshot was heard.
Huh.
And this person never was back on the base again. It kind of disappeared. Anyway, a matter of fact, I got Linda Howe involved with trying to track down this general that was supposedly involved with this whole case. And we have not been able to confirm that as well. So, but the story is crazy.
Yeah, there's just so much there.
Oh, I mean, it's just, but that blanket being caught in the window, supposedly they did come in and take that whole window out. Being taken up in a beam of light, lying on an exam table and being probed, missing fetuses out of the body experience of poltergeist activity, orbs. One of the biggest things right now that's going on is orbs.
Yeah.
We see a lot of orbs. The second thing is interdimensionals, and then poltergeist activity is very prevalent, a combination thereof. Telepathy, psychic abilities, metallic taste in the mouth, feeling of heat, and sometimes sunburn. The missing fetus thing is remarkable. One of our board members, Geraldine Orozco, is supposedly has mothered 21 children. And she has her own website and does some remarkable work with people as far as this whole thing as well. But I remember Dr. Neal, who's another guy that's passed away a number of years ago. We went to the National Archives to try to get some data on this missing fetus thing. He was not a believer in the fact that this was actually happening, but I tend to had disagreed with him on the fact that these people that women have had ultrasounds done, and there's the fetus, and then the next thing you know, the fetus is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctors don't have a clue as to what happened, and the women, they didn't abort it. It's not. There's no physical evidence anymore. It's just gone, just absolutely gone.
Lester, if I recall, Dr. Neal, he was a pediatrician, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
And so, and Dr. Eugene Lipson was also
Right.
a pediatrician.
Yeah. That's so. Some of the psychological effects are obviously anxiety, fear of specific locations, flashbacks and sleep disturbances, phobias, depression, confusion, PTSD. That is probably the big one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
Inappropriate reactions, like what individuals experience with Whitley Strieber's book Communion, and now he's got that new one, the Fourth Mind. He's got the big eyeballs on there now.
Lester, it took me a long time to finish that book.
Did it?
To
Really?
read the Communion, yeah.
Oh, Communion, the initial book. Yeah.
It was for me to process it, and then finally, of course, it got me interested in Bud Hopkins' book, Missing Time, and now it's interesting. These are all interesting stories of missing fetuses.
Yeah, it's just when people that don't know that these people have had significant things happen to them, and the question remains is, what is it? What is it? We extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers, military, all the above. It's just a phenomena that we don't have the answers for. Maybe some, but not a lot. Maybe some, not a lot.
Where do you think? Where are we? What direction are we heading? Concerning, with all the latest, do you think we're making headway, or is it?
Well, I think that the last year or so has been phenomenal as far as making headway is concerned. To have congressional hearings, or multiple congressional hearings, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. And once again, it's bipartisan in nature. So you can't say that that's not progress. I mean, and then the fact that shows like George Knapp and Jeremy's show and what's the name of that show that they do together? Jeremy
Weaponized.
Yeah, Weaponized. Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great show. That's a great show. And again, it's in a way it's desensitizing.
Mm-hmm.
And that we've been experiencing a drip method of desensitization, but the last year or so, it's been the faucet's been turned on a little bit more. And whistleblowers are coming forward. I mean, on a fairly regular basis, and then people confirming who they are in their stories.
Mm-hmm.
This guy Barker, with the incident with retrieving the egg, and the whole crew got sick, really sick, once they recovered that thing. So and a lot of this is directly related to radiation type sickness, from what I understand. Whether it's biological in nature as well, it could be some biological issue that's going on. But it's another thing that we don't have all the cards on the table. We can't play the hand yet. We need another roll.
Yeah.
Your list was great of the different things that people are seeing and experiencing during them. One of the other things on our list is out of place markers. So things like people might see a like a car, a very old car that looks very new but in a weird spot. It's like, I've had a couple cases where it's like a brand new car that's sticking half out of like a sand dune, or it's like parked in a way between trees that it couldn't get there. You also hear some cases too where it's giant animals. So there's a good case at the symposium last year where somebody had an abduction experience, and right before their experience, they came across, or they saw, going across the road, some like 5-foot tall rabbits. Do you experience any of those kind of, out of place things?
Oh yeah, owls, large owls.
Yeah, you hear about owls too a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, is it doing that because it's something that for us would be more palatable?
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. I mean, you hear about this even in regular abductions, without forget the animal part, but it's a happy clown, or it's a cute little bunny, or it's all kinds of things that supposedly to calm us down, if you will. Again, it's just one crazy phenomena after the next.
Yeah. You know what I find fascinating, Les and Alex, is the people that are prominent in this field that are served in the military are now sharing that they're experiencers. To give you an example, Robert Salas, do you remember his story?
Sure.
He was involved. He was a missile launcher.
Yeah.
And then Robert Hastings, he's the researcher on nukes, UFOs and nukes.
Yeah.
And he's come out that he too has gone through an experience. And it's also Jacobs. That's the gentleman that was monitoring the flight of a missile out of Vandenberg base.
They got the video of this object shooting a beam at the missile and making it go off course. I mean, it's amazing. Talking about, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, there's a book out there. I can't remember the Connections. I think that's the name of it. Both Jacobs and Hastings wrote that book together about their experience. I mean, he was photographing that whole thing, and I mean, all that got confiscated. And I see that maybe among the Congress, or maybe a number of them might be experiencers.
Well, it could be reason for why there seems to be so bipartisan. Maybe these people have had some experiences. What you mentioned Robert Salas's name. Well, at the last symposium in Las Vegas, MUFON symposium in Vegas, I had put on a presentation to an experiencer group in the morning, and Robert and his wife were there.
Oh, yeah.
And they came up to me afterwards and says, "Can we talk to you later?" And I said, "Sure." So I had a table in the exhibitor area, and they came over and they sat down with me, and they started to tell me about their experience with their abduction. They've both been abducted, and this blue light appeared in their room, and that's the last thing they remember. His wife subsequently was able to heal people after that.
Oh.
She's a healer. She's a healer, and I tell you, fascinating story. Is what happened to him, at the Malmstrom Air Force Base, with the missiles being shut down, and then subsequently having an experience. What kind of connection is that?
Yeah, that really makes you want to think about this whole thing, this whole situation.
There's so many synchronicities and things happening. I mean, I've been around the country. My past job, I was the national sales manager for a company before I joined Luscombe Engineering, and I've ended up in places where there's been significant events that have happened, not while I was there, but like, right before I got there. And, you mentioned the word synchronicity earlier. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of that that happens. It's like, oh yeah, that just happened, and I'm here now. Why am I here now?
Yeah.
Yeah. You brought up healing, and thinking of Preston Dennett. He just did a thing on YouTube. I think I posted it on the OPUS chart
Mhm.
about people having contact and being healed from their various illnesses and that. And
Now that's interesting because this goes back. Remember, we were together in Richmond at the MUFON symposium many moons ago. What was that,
yeah,
90 something?
back in the
Early
90s.
90s?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was flying back, and I ended up sitting next to a woman who turned out to be the head of St. Jude Hospital.
Oh, wow.
A doctor, right? And surprisingly, she wasn't in first class because I wasn't in first class. But anyway, so she asked me, we just started making small talk, and eventually came up that I was at this UFO symposium with MUFON. And she said, I got an interesting story to tell you. And I said, all right. And she was a doctor at another hospital before she was involved with St. Jude. And said this woman had cancer, and they were going to operate on her the next morning. And so that morning they came in to take her into surgery. And she says, I don't need it. And they said, what do you mean you don't need it? Well, they came last night and they took care of it. And they said, oh, okay, sure. They thought she was freaking out. But anyway, they decided, in all, being cautious, they decided to re-examine her to make sure it was, if it was there or not. Sure enough, it wasn't there. It was gone.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
I never heard that story there, Lester.
Yeah.
I remember you and I met you at the 1992 symposium in Albuquerque.
Right.
Yeah, and then also that's where I met a lot of other key people there.
Yeah, I met Linda Howe there. I met her the first time. Phil Klass, I met there. I had drinks with him.
Yeah. I remember you were saying he's a really nice, nice person. Although he was supposing a skeptic, right? And,
very much so.
But
very much so. And I was just started to talk to him about Opus and what we were trying to do, and he said, "Just be careful. There's a lot of crazy people out there."
Oh yeah, and I remember that's where we met Jack Valet and Linda Cortiel.
Yeah.
Remember the Linda Cortiel case?
Yeah.
Where she was abducted out of her home.
Yeah. I met Glenn Dennis, the mortician, at the one in Albuquerque, and Jacques Valet was there. I didn't meet him, but I wasn't that knowledgeable about him at that point, I think. Yeah, that was an interesting one. Glenn Dennis, he just came up to me. It was like we were just standing around, and he started. Yeah, I was the mortician, and I brought the caskets to the base. And okay. It's amazing, when I look back on the people that I've met, John Mack, Stanton Freeman, Whitley Strieber. Matter of fact, I was on Whitley's show. It was last year, and really interesting guy. Really interesting guy. So I'm looking forward to reading his book now, the new one.
I had Stanton Freeman stay at my house as a guest when he was doing lectures here in the Bay Area.
Oh, fantastic!
It was really great to get to know him.
Oh, wow!
And Bud Hopkins also. And Bud Hopkins was a guest.
Oh yeah!
Stayed here and
Bud was on our advisory board in the very beginning, and we had many good conversations with Bud over the years. That's for sure. Too bad he's not around anymore. That's too bad.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of really prominent people over the years, and now
Well,
now
that's the
we
next
need
thing.
we need more younger people like Alex to
Exactly.
carry on the show
Exactly.
there, carry on the
Exactly.
baton.
Yeah, we're getting up in age, as it were.
How do you, Alex, when you hear of both Lester and I sharing some of our history, what's your thoughts?
I'm jealous. I mean, you guys just described an all-star cast of people that were all just, in the same place, there for the same purpose. Nowadays, I feel like you don't get that many, A-list people all in one spot, just kind of casually all there. So, you guys have both had just really amazing careers in the field, and have got to meet all the best of the best, I feel.
Yeah, I've been lucky in that regard for sure. I would have liked to spend more time with Jacques Velez, but Ruben has done that. He's done a good job with Jacques.
He's a very great person.
Yeah. Well, that book that he wrote with Paula Harris, the Trinity case.
Yes, the Trinity case.
Yeah, that's I haven't gotten that book yet. I should get that one.
Oh yeah,
it's a good one.
There's an update. Make sure you get the update.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But his case on about that crash that occurred there in wasn't in New Mexico?
Yeah, New Mexico.
The Trinity bomb site.
Right. That's exactly. Matter of fact, I just picked up a book that came out a couple of years ago. Schmidt, Roswell, Case Closed. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one. I just
heard of it.
I just picked it up. I didn't realize it was a couple of years old, but I just started reading it, so I can't tell you a whole lot about it. But he gives a lot of background into the how this all came about, and he included Stanton Friedman in the beginning of the book too. So
it's amazing. The event happened in 1947, but we really didn't know about it until right around 1978, I believe.
Right, when Stanton got
Stanton, and there was the other gentleman that wrote a book.
Berlitz.
Yeah.
Berlitz. Yeah.
And then Unsolved Mysteries. Remember Robert Stack?
Stack.
He had that program and did a wonderful show on Roswell and some of the other cases. I really enjoyed that program back then.
Have you guys read Nick Redfern's Body Snatchers in the Desert on the Roswell incident?
No.
That sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one. He talks more about that one, about how Roswell may not have been a UFO, but was a different type of U.S. government experiment. So he goes into a lot of good research in that, and really kind of, after reading that book, it kind of flipped the whole Roswell experience on its head for me, and now I'm kind of unsure where I stand on it.
Yeah, I think that there's been a couple of other people that have, I think, James Carrion, I think, has come out with something about the fact that it had nothing to do with crashed UFO and things of that nature. But I don't know. There's too many people over the years that have come forward to tell their side of the story, and I tend to believe that it actually happened. That's my take on it.
Do you remember, Lester, the gentleman that both I and Chuck Reaver we interviewed?
Mm-hmm.
And he was the gentleman who was saying that it was his father that was he was a military police, and that was his father that threatened some of the witnesses there at Roswell. And the military MP told the people they have to be quiet, not to say anything, or they'll wind up being
in the desert.
Bones in the desert. And that was he threatened a lady named Frankie Rowe, and So that's when we went and we interviewed the man about his father who passed away, but he gave us his background, and then we taped the interview. Then when we went to Roswell, we met up with Frankie Rowe and showed her the video. And to her, she said, "You know what?" She says, "I realized these guys were following orders and that." And then she said that she forgave the guy
Hmm.
for, because she understood, although she lived under this traumatic experience, being threatened, and her and her mother had to live with this for such a long time. And then,
I think that's why I tend to believe it. I mean, again, I met with, Dennis and the mortician, and the way he was telling that story, it was so believable. I mean, I didn't feel that he was blowing smoke up my tailpipe. I mean, it was like, yeah, this really happened. Three small caskets, and they were delivered to the base, and of course, nothing was ever said about that. And of course, that missing nurse, the nurse, that's part of that story, which is interesting.
with she, can you tell me more about it? Was that the nurse that?
Well, she saw the bodies.
Oh, that's right. She saw the caskets too.
Yeah, she saw everything, and then people trying to track her down could never find her. Yeah, so probably passed away and had an accident or something, maybe on purpose.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of documents still out there, that paper trail that hasn't even been discovered yet.
As people get older too, as people age, people do die and such. As their rest of their families going through their estate, that's where we're going to find a lot of these things. Is people, find something in the attic that was mom or dad's that they never knew about, but somehow related to all this. Documents, videos, all kinds of things like that could still be out there.
Well, I had the opportunity at the 50th anniversary of Roswell. I was there, and I had an opportunity to talk with Colonel Carso.
Wow.
And I said to him, I said, "Hey, here you are in the Eisenhower administration. You were well respected, and now you come out with a book that people might think you're crazy." He says, "You know what? I don't care. Number one, it's true, and our kids, our grandchildren need to know that this happened." The way he said that, I totally believe it.
You met him in such a small window too, between his book coming out and when he died.
Yep.
That one's a great one too. Really, really enjoyed that one. I think that one's just a fantastic book. The way that he writes it, and the technology and the things he writes about. It's it all fits. It all fits very well.
Yeah, the day after Roswell. That's so interesting to basically reverse engineer. Put this into the military-industrial complex, which Eisenhower warned everybody about. Mm-hmm. Beware of the industrial complex, military-industrial complex. And it's happening now. That's who we're fighting against.
Yeah.
To try to bring out more information.
Quick question: How do you approach the medical providers, the hypnotherapists, or people that are medical professionals, mental health professionals? How do you recruit them?
Well, first of all, we reach out in some cases to people that we think, based on, we look at their websites, if they have websites. We try to collect as much information as possible, but we also then have them fill out a questionnaire, which is quite extensive. And that seems to work pretty well, that we understand, have they had experience with experiencers? What are their credentials like? Are they licensed? Are they certified? Depending, hypnotherapists are certified mental health practitioners have to be licensed. And so these are the hurdles that we ask these people to go through in order to be part of the referral network. And, we're constantly keeping our ears to the ground as far as, especially if we lack somebody in a certain area. I do some research. Other board members of our group will do research on these people or try to find somebody in that area. There's other organizations that also, like MUFON, that has their list of referrals, but our lists are pretty much the same because we exchange information pretty well. So I see we're down to a couple of minutes, guys. So thank you, Chanel.
Les, anything before we do get on? Are you speaking anywhere this year? Any other upcoming podcasts or things that we can listen to you?
I'm going to be doing a podcast with the Hollywood. What's the heck is their group name?
Is that the Alliance Group?
Yeah,
Hollywood Alliance.
yeah, that Hollywood Alliance. Yeah, that's coming up in June, though. It's out there a ways. Disclosure Alliance, Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. That's it. And I'm going to be doing some interviews of people. I've got one coming up with Pamela Nance, who has had some remarkable experiences with entities, but also a lot with poltergeist activity. Some really fascinating experiences that way, which she's documented very well. Constantly looking for ways to put stuff out there. But people, if looking for any kind of assistance, you can go to our website at opusnetwork.org. We're on YouTube at Opus Network. And we're also on Facebook, as far as we have a group there and a page. So if you're interested, and as far as the YouTube, please go and subscribe. It helps us. And if you would, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Perfect. Well, Les, thank you so much for your time, all the great information. It was a great show. Thank you, as always, to our producer, Chanel, and to MUFON for putting on this show. We'll join you next time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Lester. Thank you all.
You bet. Bye-bye.